Good afternoon then, and thank you for joining UKAS's Demystifying webinar on the role of the UKAS Assessment Manager. My name's Laura Turner. I'm Senior Marketing Specialist in the marketing team at UKAS. This webinar is going to introduce you to the various roles carried out by technical personnel at UKAS, and will explain how to get the best from your relationship with the UKAS Assessment Manager as a customer. The webinar will also look at the role of the technical assessors and experts and how they contribute to the assessment process. As you can see from the messages that are on the screen at the moment, microphones will not be enabled in this presentation. However, we do invite you to submit any questions that you have to the Q&A box, which we encourage you to use rather than the chat box. And if you pop them in throughout the presentation, we will address them at the end. The webinar is being recorded and a recording will be sent out by email next week. So today's webinar is going to be presented by Louise Sanders, who's our Head of Development and Scheme Integrity at UKAS. Louise has been with us for many years and she's very well placed to provide a nice overview of this element of the assessment side of things, and also she'll be able to answer any of those questions that you put through the Q&A towards the end. So with that in mind, I will hand you over to Louise now.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Laura. We're very lucky to have Laura with us today. She's actually got COVID. So we're really lucky that she's managed to be with us. So thank you very much, Laura. So yes, my name's Louise Sanders. Good afternoon, everybody. For those who have joined the other sessions in this series, I'm afraid you've got me again this afternoon, just to talk about the role of the assessment manager, the vital importance of this role in assisting you, in supporting you and working through accreditation with you, both as you gain accreditation and then you maintain it as well. My background is in laboratory, so I've always worked in laboratories straight out of university, different sorts of laboratories, food, agriculture, some biological, medical laboratories as well. And then I've been with UKAS for 19 years now, where I started off in the AFLA section, so that's agriculture, food, life sciences and asbestos. So I started off there and then moved to development a number of years ago now, and I now head that team up. So development's very different to general operational activities within UKAS. My team looks at developing accreditation in areas where it's not yet present. So that might be working with government, might be working with different organisations or sectors or regulatory bodies to develop that trust, that confidence that accreditation brings to the public, to customers, to patients, to consumers. So as you can imagine, you never quite know what's coming through the door next. So it's very, very exciting, very interesting to think, oh, who knew that was a thing, and you know, help people to understand what accreditation is, and for us to understand what their need is and what the need for that assurance level is. And then the other side of our work is scheme integrity. So that encompasses all of the certification areas and inspection and validation and verification, and the schemes that are used to underpin those activities. We work with those organisations to ensure that the schemes meet requirements, that they're visible, that they're traceable, and that they are suitable for use in accreditation. So that's a little bit about myself. Just to talk you through the webinar. So as I've said, this is part of 3. So it's the last one in the series, and we developed this in UKAS in order to provide further information for you as customers, as potential customers, depending on where you are in your readiness to apply for accreditation, or in perhaps to extend your accreditation. So back a few weeks ago, the first of these webinars examined the purpose of accreditation and provided background information about the accreditation process, the role played by UKAS as the national accreditation body. So we went through who UKAS are, what is accreditation, benefits of accreditation, the assessment process itself, and how you could start to think about accreditation and applying for it. And then last week we had the second in the series, and that's the journey to accreditation. So this offered a deeper dive into the process of becoming accredited and the subsequent maintenance of your accreditation status. And then today we're going to focus on the really important relationships that you'll form with our team, our teams, our technical personnel, and the other people that you'll meet working with UKAS. So all of these people work on the assessment process, and these are the people that you'll have most contact with as you work your way through the process. So over the course of today's webinar, we'll look at the process of submitting applications, the contract review process, which is a process that we look at in terms of establishing what you need, what we need to provide for you, what kind of assessment we need to perform, how long that might be, and which staff that we'll need to bring with us to do that. How we're going to design that assessment. So will it be remote? Will it be blended? Will it be on site? What will we need to cover? How we're going to deliver that? And then how we're also going to talk about how we'll deal with the non-conformities that may be raised. So these are when we identify that there's a gap within your processes that you need to address in order to comply with the relevant standard. So we call these lots of different things, findings, improvement actions. They're all non-conformities in terms of if there's something you need to do to address. We're also going to talk about how then you close those improvement actions out, and the very important part that accompanies all of our assessments where a decision is made. So that includes the initial accreditations, extension to scopes, changes in any activities, or your renewal of accreditation, where an independent person, might be a committee or a person, reviews the entire process that we've performed to ensure that it meets our processes. So that's what we call the decision-making process. Right, so to start off with, accreditation covers many technical sections. These are wide and a diverse range, as you can see from this slide. The delivery of these accreditation services is managed through various sections within the business, and these include, as you can see on this slide, the AFLA section, so that's agriculture, food, life sciences and asbestos. Then we have our ECAP sister section even, so they look after our engineering customers, construction and physics. Then we have our CCV section, and they look after corporate customers, so the very large customers that we deal with, certification customers, and also the verification and validation customers as well. And then we have my team there, the development of new areas of accreditation and scheme integrity as well. Then we have our large teams in healthcare, which cover medical laboratories, diagnostic imaging, physiological testing, medical physics and clinical engineering, to name but a few. And then lastly, we have our forensics section. So they are looking with forensics across the board, whether that's fingerprinting, whether that's scenes of crime, whether that's DNA laboratories. We're developing accreditation for SARCs, so sexual assault referral centres, and a huge number of other different disciplines within that technical field. So another very busy area as well. So each of those technical sections is led by a section head, and we manage the programs of accreditation in our areas. The section comprises of a number of different assessment managers, senior assessment managers, and certainly in my section we have a large number of specialists, so sector specialists, accreditation specialists within certain specific areas as well. So all of these staff, whatever their role, have an expert understanding of their technical area and the industries which we serve. So when we get a new application, we review the application and set you up on the system, and you're appointed a number that becomes your your number for life. So your accreditation number will be listed on all of our correspondence with you so that we can always tie it back to make sure that we've got the right customer. Following the review of your application and setting you up, then your application goes to the section head of each section. So depending on whether you're in agriculture, or you're forensics, or you're in engineering, you'll go to a different section. The section head will then review your application and allocate you to someone we call an assessment manager. These are the people who manage your journey through the accreditation process and then onwards into the normality of running your surveillance activities and establishing that normal process of accreditation with you. This person is extremely important. They do become your main point of contact with UKAS, along with the member of staff that we call your customer liaison officer, who books your visits, who will always be around as well to talk to you. But in terms of the technical activity and managing your assessment manager is that key contact point. You will develop a really good relationship and good and strong relationship with them. That partnership is extremely important, that we understand you, what you need and when you need it and how you need it, and that we have that good relationship so we can make sure that works as seamlessly as possible. So when that's happened, your assessment manager is going to get in touch with you to introduce themselves, to talk about what happens next. Obviously to understand more about yourselves, your business, the size of your business, complexities, what market you're in, what sector you're in, why you're looking for accreditation now. Is there a need? Is there a particular contract you're going after that there is a need? So is there a time implication there that we need to be aware of as well? And those assessment managers will have that high-level discussion with you around the type of accreditation that you've applied for, just to check it's the right sort. We'll talk about common pitfalls or tangents that people can go off on and try to help you to not do that, and to just call your attention to different areas that you must need to think about, publications that can support your application and assist you, and just generally how we can help and assist. We also very much talk about your management system. So is it in its infancy? Has it been written? Is it live yet? Where are you on that? And that's a very important part. Until we have a management system that's in place, then we wouldn't be able to move forward with a formal assessment process with you, because this is obviously key to everything that we will need to do. We also always talk about timescales and costs. As you can imagine, there are often questions that were asked. So we will make sure that we understand your activities and your requirements in terms of timescales. If you have any specific ones, please do pipe up and let us know at any time. And also costs. So that can be a longer conversation, in all honesty, because it will depend on the size, the complexity of your scope. So we'll need to discuss that and understand that with you to make sure that we could allocate the most appropriate staff to your team to make sure that we can cover all of your activities for you. So as you can see, there's a lot to discuss even in this new application phase, where your assessment manager is then getting to know you, and very importantly, you're getting to know them as well. So defining the assessment approach, your assessment manager, as the title alludes to, will manage all types of assessment that you have. So whether that's from application, we'll be looking at, as we've looked at on the last screen, what that looks like in terms of getting to know you, then moving towards a pre-assessment, so that informal visit that is not mandatory, but we highly recommend. That all customers actually move to have before moving on to the initial assessment. And then following grants and that great day of accreditation, we move to surveillance. So there's 3 surveillances and then a reassessment. And then at any point, of course, if you want to extend your scope to include other areas, more tests, more different areas of certification or inspection, then we can extend your scope at any time, whether that's at the annual surveillance and you combine it, or actually at any point during the year. And your assessment manager remains the person that you contact to say, we need to extend our scope. How do we do it in terms of when can you do it? What will you need to see? The assessment managers as well will identify the most appropriate assessment approach. Now, before COVID, we would have done, I don't know, 99% of our visits always on site with our customers, with you at your premises. Clearly that changed overnight back in 2020, and we went purely to remote assessments, apart from some of the COVID related work where we carried on actually needing to assess on site as well, but generally it went completely remote. So we've learned now that it does work, and there are great ways of doing it, and we've got good control over that now. So it may be that your assessments are on site, it may be that they're remote, it may be that they're a mixture of that, and we call that blended assessment approach. We might need to do some desktop work, so that might be reviews of documentation, of your policies and procedures, of your validation exercises. So we'll need to think about that as well. And the assessment manager will also look at the team. So who is it that we're going to work with on our teams in terms of assessing you? Who do we need to have, which specific expertise, and how will we manage that as well? So building that team, there will always be a lead assessor on an assessment team. So that generally is the assessment manager, but it doesn't have to be. It may well be that another more suitable person is appointed as the person who will lead the assessment with you during that assessment time. We will appoint technical assessors, so people who are experts in their area and also in accreditation processes, so they can work independently of our staff. Majority of our technical assessors are subcontracted in. We have well over 700 technical assessors who we use and ask to join our teams. And then we have also a number of technical experts. So these are expert in their technical areas, but not necessarily in the accreditation processes. So we assist them and accompany them when they join us on our assessments. Now, in some areas, and particularly in healthcare, there is also a requirement for lay assessors to be included. So these might be previous patients of different healthcare activities or modalities. It may just be that it's patient focus groups, somebody who's going to join our assessment teams to see that point of view and to give their point of view on, well, this is what a patient would feel, this is what a patient would look for. And that's really, really helpful in those areas. We often have observers, so that may be that we're monitoring our own staff, maybe that we've got trainees that are joining us and observing our assessments as well. Very importantly, though, as I've alluded to, the technical competence of our staff is absolutely fundamental and extremely important, so that when we look at your scope and what you've asked us to assess with you, we make sure we have the right team, people who are experts in those areas that can assess you in a robust, thorough, and meaningful way that's going to add value. We always also ask all of our staff, whether internal staff or our external contracted in staff, if they have any conflicts of interest. So that's an ongoing process where if anyone does have a conflict of interest, then they are requested to declare them to us. That might be relationships they've had, either I've worked in a certain area or I'm married or divorced perhaps to someone in a certain organisation. Whatever that conflict might be, I've done some consultancy work with them previously, whatever that is, that we have that information so we don't appoint somebody to the team that is not appropriate. Okay, so when that's happened, we then start thinking about the assessment and programming for the assessment. So we accredit in 4-year cycles. So we have the first year and the grant of accreditation, then we move to surveillance activities. Now, surveillances allow us to be a little bit more flexible. So at an initial and a reassessment assessment, we need to look at everything. We look at all of the activities, we make sure we've covered everything, we look at all of the clauses of standard. Whereas the surveillance allows us to be a little bit more flexible. There might be specific clauses, areas, or areas of concern that you're bringing to us and saying we're struggling with this, or we've got lots of change in a certain area. So we may well focus on different areas on different years. We need to demonstrate that we've covered all of your activities over that 4-year cycle and all of the areas of the standard as well. So that includes all of your, if you're in a laboratory, all of your tests that you have listed on your schedule. If you're a certification body or an inspection body, that we've witnessed all of the types of certifications or inspections that you deliver as well. If there's anything else that ties into that, so it might be if you're in a laboratory that you do some internal calibrations, then we'll have a look at those within that 4-year cycle. Might be if you're a certification body that there are sector schemes that you work with, we'll make sure that we look at those as well, and any other functions as well. So whether it's subsampling, subcontracting, your facilities, and if you outsource anything as well, obviously we'll be assessing that with you over the 4-year programme. So what happens? So you've been assessed and you've been accredited and had the party, and then following that you have an annual assessment. So as we've said, that is generally on site, but may well include an element of a remote assessment. Maybe that we look at your management system remotely and we look at witness activities on site with you. So that will vary. It may vary from year to year as we have different focuses on the assessments each year as well. The dates for our assessments are always agreed in advance. Sometimes that is literally as we're leaving the door at 1 year, we will pencil in dates for the following year as well to make sure that you get a date that you need, and we can get the team there, so that that's all arranged. But we will always aim to do that at least 5 months in advance, whatever the situation. Before the assessment, we write what we call an assessment plan. This will list when we're coming, what we're going to look at, who's going to look at them, any meetings that we might have within that assessment day or days, depending on how long the assessment it is. So you know what we're going to need to look at, who we're going to need to talk to, so you can prepare as well. We generally ask you for your quality manual, for perhaps the minute meetings from your management review, so that we can just see what's been happening during the year. And our technical staff are likely to ask for data in terms of the tests that they're going to be looking at. Might be your QC data, might be some validation information, might be how many tests you've done in certain areas, or certification, how many certificates that you've issued, that kind of information. And then on the assessment day itself, we start the assessment off with a meeting just to open and introduce everybody, just to make sure that the planning for the day is all sorted. Do we need to be anywhere at a certain time, or are you flexible? How have you managed our assessment plan, and where do we need to go to make sure we cover all of the activities within that day? During the assessment, we'll witness those activities, we'll discuss with your staff, we'll interview people, we'll look at records and policies and procedures, as you can imagine. If there are any gaps, then we can agree what we call an improvement action for you to address them. And then towards the end of the day, or the end of the assessment, the assessment team itself will have a private meeting just to discuss and see if there's any common themes, if there's any concerns across the team, or how we've identified strengths, so we can feed all of that back to you in the closing meeting, where we give you our recommendation on accreditation, and each of the different areas, the assessors will give you a feedback on that as well. However, it's important to point out that there's never any surprises at that level. At that point of the assessment, if we raise actions, we'll do it during the day and agree them with you during the day. So you're not going to have any surprises at the end of the day. You're going to have a good feel for the outcome of the assessment. So I mentioned about the improvement actions. So generally, if we raise any improvement actions at a surveillance or a reassessment, you have 4 weeks or 1 month or so to close them. We always check that date with you. If there's holidays or Christmas, or if they're more urgent, we might change that date and bring it forward. We might also put it to 6 weeks if there's something that you're specifically waiting for in order to close the finding. If it's an initial assessment or an extension to scope assessment, then you have additional time, and you can have up to 3 months to close those findings. Each of the assessment team will review their own findings. So if I've raised one, I'll review the evidence that you send in to address it. If a colleague of mine has raised a finding, then they'll do that as well. We also look at how you've looked at the root cause of that finding. Why did it happen that something wasn't there? And what's the extent? Have you looked at it to make sure across the business that actually there aren't other areas where this could always be an issue as well? So we're going to make sure that we'll review the evidence to make sure that it addresses the improvement action, and that the root cause and the extent and everything is satisfactorily done. If it's not, or we might need some further clarification or some more information, then we may request some further evidence. It's quite common to happen, perhaps for a few of findings in each review. So please don't be upset or concerned if that happens. If everything's satisfactory, if everything's looking good, then we can close those actions, and that's all sorted. So that's great. Now, decision makers, I talked to you about it earlier in terms of this is the independent process that we go through for our governance to ensure that the activity that we've delivered, the assessment team that we've put in place, the time that we've given to that assessment, the coverage, what we've achieved, have we assessed everything that we included on that assessment plan, are the reports written in enough detail that we can see the outcomes? That's what the decision maker is looking at. It's not assessing you again, it's actually verifying that the assessment that's taking place met all of our requirements. So our decision makers are experienced members of staff who are authorised to independently approve, review and approve assessment approaches in different situations. They tend to be standard specific, so I make decisions in a number of different areas across the different sections and across the different standards. Some people may have lots of standards that we look at, some people might only ever look at them in one particular area, and that goes to whatever their experience leads them to be able to do. The assessment manager will prepare the documentation for the decision makers. So we're going to have things like the assessment plan, the assessment report, the improvement action reports. If a schedule has been written, updated, then a draft copy of that will be there. We have an assessment programme that lists everything and how we're going to manage your assessment over 4 years. We'll make sure that that's in place and it covers everything as well. So that decision maker may ask for more information. So it may well be that they'll come back to the team and say, what happened about this? Was that internal calibration in place? And the assessment team will then be asked to clarify, verify or confirm that for us. Very, very occasionally that might mean that they need to come back to the customer, to yourselves to ask for some information, but that really is really quite rare. So that decision maker reviews all of that documentation, checks that we've done what we said we'd do, that we've covered everything we needed to do, and we've done it sufficiently in terms of breadth and depth, that we've got a good picture of what's going on and are able to make the right decision in terms of recommending accreditation. Okay, so what to expect from your assessment managers. So as I said, they're your first point of contact, they're your the person you need to make sure you have that really good understanding of your activities, your needs, and make sure that you have that good relationship with them. Assessment managers will be very keen to do that with you. It's just so key that we all understand your needs and how things work. As we said, dates for assessment agreed 4 to 6 months. So I think I said 5, so hopefully we're about right on that one. The assessment plan that I've mentioned is sent generally around 4 weeks in advance of an assessment. If you put in a late extension scope and we work quickly with you to get that in place, then the dates might be shorter and we might get an assessment plan out to you more close to the assessment than the dates we're quoting there. But you kind of understand why on that one. In terms of the final report, this is completed for you by the assessment team and will be with you within 5 working days of that final assessment day. Now, I guess it's reasonable here to say that we aim for that to be 5 working days, but the vast majority of time it's within that. There may be times when people are off sick or there's a holiday or something that means that that time might be slightly extended, but the assessment manager would always discuss that with you so you're aware and you're not wondering where your assessment report is. So what happens next? So in terms of what you would do, if you'd like to apply, then please do so. There is a number of different guidance documents on our website. So how to apply the different documents and forms. As I've said before, we are UKAS. We do like the odd form. So there are quite a few for you to fill in. So please do find those on our website. I'll come on in a minute to introducing some of the contact points that you can approach for guidance as well. So that's what happens in terms of our application, but there's also, I just want to talk quickly around the UKAS Training Academy. So these are there to assist, to give you awareness, to help any members of your staff or perhaps quality managers or technical managers, whatever that looks like. And they will cover certification, inspection, healthcare, and all of their different disciplines, the laboratories, validation, verification, that cover all of the different activities that we accredit. So whilst training is not mandatory at all, you do not have to do one of our courses before you gain accreditation. Please do not think that, but it can be really useful in demystifying some of the more complex areas of the standard, or providing the tools and the techniques to fill in the remaining gaps that you may have, in order to ensure that your systems and your processes are developed in line with the requirements of accreditation, and also that you haven't gone off on a tangent and perhaps overdeveloped something that perhaps you didn't need to do. So our UKAS Academy trainers are all current or previous senior assessment managers, section heads such as myself, are accreditation specialists. So we're across the business and we all step in and do some training as much as we possibly can to support the academy. So you get to ask us what we think in terms of what we've seen that was good and perhaps not so good, or what worked or didn't work. And you can ask our trainers specific questions around your own organisations, or more generic ones as well. The other real benefit of our public courses, for example, is that you get to talk to other organisations as well. So I think it's really nice to know that you're not on your own trying to work out what a quality management system needs to look like, but actually you can sit in a room and say, yeah, we're all in the same boat here. Thank goodness it's not just me. So our public courses, just to talk a little bit more, we do actually specialise within the academy. We do specialise in public training delivery in the live environment, and that provides learners with the opportunity to meet us face to face with your peers and with our trainers as well, and all from related industries who will have identified similar challenges, be looking at the same processes that they're needing to develop. So that can be a really positive help. And I think always at the end of those sessions, we see lots of business cards and contacts details being exchanged as people keep in touch and actually help each other out following it. So our knowledgeable trainers are drawn from our in-house experts. We facilitate group discussions. We usually have some activities, perhaps a little bit of role play in there, to try and provide a lively and interactive learning experience. It's not all sitting there with death by PowerPoint. We do make sure that there's variation there. And then following the pandemic and our switch of everything to away from face-to-face to more virtual training and activities, we've also got a platform that we use for our virtual instructor-led training. So if travelling to a course can be difficult or certainly expensive, or if you say perhaps your members of your organisation are spread across the UK or internationally around the world, then we have the virtual option that you can apply for and train in a different way. So that training is designed to simulate the traditional learning experience. So it also brings you together with your peers. We get you to chatting and talking and working in groups with ourselves as the trainers in the same way. So the material is exactly the same as we would deliver in a live face-to-face when we do it virtually as well. Okay, then we have some on-site courses. So sometimes an organisation would ask us to go and deliver training to a number of their staff on their own site. So it might be that's most convenient for your organisation, and it might also be a cost-effective solution if you wish to train several staff at the same time. You can have these delivered as face-to-face or virtual, and UKAS will work with you in terms of agreeing suitable dates, venues, and the process that you'd like us to deliver that as well. And then we have a large amount of e-learning material that's now available for you on our website. Our online courses are ideal if you're looking for a deeper understanding of some of the more complex topics surrounding accreditation. And then once you've applied to UKAS and have received your customer number, and you and your colleagues can enrol free of charge onto a selection of our e-learning programs. Our portfolio is always growing here, and if you think there are any topics missing, then please do let us know. We're more than happy to develop more to make sure that we can help you with that. Okay, moving on. I mentioned that we would, the people that you can get in touch with at any time. So if you're ready to become accredited, you can start your journey now by going to www.ukas.com, where you'll be able to send to obtain that information. But if you've got a general accreditation or technical inquiry, please do email our info@ukas.com, and there's a telephone number for you there. If you'd like to talk about applying as well, then we have our sales@ukas.com email address and that telephone number. And if you'd like to attend our course, then there's lots of information on the website and another telephone number for you there as well. I'd also like to point out that there is a number of readiness tools now available on our website. So that will help you just as a bit of a ready reckoner, really, in terms of, are you ready to apply? And it's for you. We don't need to we're not going to mark you on it. It's for you to say, have I got this? Have I done that? Where am I with this? And am I ready to move on to the next step? So there's a large variation of those now, covering different standards, different activities. So if you look at readiness tools on our website, then they'd be helpful as well. We've had some really good feedback on those, so those should help you as well. Okay, any questions at all, Laura?
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
Got you.
We haven't actually had any questions come through this time, which
Okay.
is very unusual. So evidently you've done a fantastic job giving a really good overview of everything. If anyone does have anything they want to drop into the Q&A box, that would be great. Now's your chance. Although obviously, if you think of something at a later date, you can always get hold of someone at UKAS through the communications@ukas.com inbox, and that will come through to me and the rest of the marketing team, and we can then make sure we find the right person who can help out with that. And whether that's relating to training or something to do with application, because we sit within the commercial team, the wider commercial team, we've got the sales team with us. So they're always very good at finding good people to answer those sorts of questions. But no, it looks like we're clear on questions on this occasion.
later date, then please do drop it into that and drop us an email, and I can always have a call or answer anything for you as well.
Well, thank you very much, Louise. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you everyone who joined us today as well. We'll let you get on with your day. And as I say, the recording of the webinar will be sent round next week. But yeah, thanks again.
No problem. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.